Here's the video for the new CCA PLA 13. It is a planar driver or some version of a planar driver. It's said to be new. I think it's like 13.5 millimeter. It's available at Linsoul, and I'll go ahead and link below the video. Was very excited to get this. The CCA 16 that they released a long time ago, I'm a big fan of that, and CCA is released relative to another company, KZ. I think that they've done actually pretty well. I'm a fan of the company. I get it, I listen to it, a couple tracks, and I'm starting to get a feel for it, but I'm just slightly confused. So I do a frequency graph. And as my ear would indicate, there's elevation in the bass that's quite strong, and it's obvious when you listen to it. And before we proceed, I want to explain something to you real quick, just in case anybody's not following along. One of the benefits or the points of a planar driver, like something that would be in like headphones and the fast transients and the things that people talk about, and I believe in because I have mostly open back planar headphones that are in my personal collection. It's a dynamic driver. It's a basic design that's similar to what's in earphones. It's got a diaphragm, a surround. It's got a magnet. It's got a pole piece that's behind here. The stronger the magnet usually is better. It can help with the resolution. It's got a certain amount of winds for the voice coil. It can have dual voice coil. Usually earphones don't have that. Car audio does. You've got the diaphragm, which is right here, and then you've got the surround. And a hertz is 3 movements. You can take it in any order you want, but I'm going to say extension, retraction, and return to stable position. So it's 3. 1, 2, 3. And that's 1 hertz. So if you do 55 of those in a second, which is pretty fast, that is what 55 hertz is. This doing that 1, 2, 3, 55 or 200 or 2,000 times in a single second. Dynamic drivers got a lot of work to do, and they're amazing, and the old technology. Consider that this plays vocals and piano and all of that stuff in the mix at the same time from a single transducer is kind of incredible. In car audio, you separate this and mid drivers and tweeters or upper mids. You can do all kinds of stuff, time corrected. What they do with the earphones is kind of fascinating. The weak point of this design is when you elevate the low end too much, you're tasking this with a slow or low hit, whether it's an oboe or a deck mix bass hit, and this and its movement to have to do that will interfere with the quality of it doing what is in the mids and in the treble, because it's a single transducer really with a lot of stuff to do. And that's why the diaphragm material can help a lot, because it can stiffen it up. A good surround can also help control the diaphragm. A stronger magnet, when they talk about Teslas and stuff like that, will help with the resolution. So the best timbre and tonality comes from dynamic drivers, but they're limited, supposedly, and actually, when you lift up the bass too much, you destroy everything that follows it. Now, that was a long way of saying the whole point of these types of earphones is supposed to be, like with headphones, you've got faster transients. The dynamics going from one point to another point sounds, it's not faster, it's more natural than a closed back dynamic headphone doing the same thing. It's clear to the ear, and I think the most popular headphones that you can buy on the market, most expensive and the highest ranked, are I think mostly open backs, and a lot of times planar or stacks or something like that, because they're not fast, they're natural. And there's natural and there's everything that's not that, which we can say is slow. Why am I talking about this with the PLA? Because this sounds like a dynamic driver, because it has elevated bass and it is getting in the way. Let me go ahead and show you a spider graph. This is just my take on it. This is good because we can go back and look. I think, in my opinion, that if we're picking on bass, I think that the Hook X and the S12 are the best in the bass. That's my opinion. I'm sorry, let me turn this up a little bit. On the bass, Hook X, S12, those are my 2. If I'm going to the mids, the cleanliness of piano keys and vocals and some strings, I would say that would be the Dioko or the T1 Max. Those would be the 2 that come to mind immediately. If I'm talking about the treble, the Hook X, I can see other people liking other ones. I think the S12 is a little bit too energetic. Hook X I like the treble. Plus, it's got an open back kind of feel to it, to the ear, so I prefer that one. Resolution, I would say the Dioko, the 7 Hertz, the T1 Max, they're all very resolving. Your ability to kind of pick up everything, finger slides, piano keys, pedal pushes, all of those stuff sound really good on those sets. When it comes to stage, I would say that the Hook X, the Dioko, because the cleanliness of the mids, I guess stage is a funny thing. It depends on what you're listening to. A live track like Ronnie Van Zant on the vocals with somebody in the front left crowd and somebody in the front right can give you a kind of triangulation and a sense of space and depth that can lend itself to the feeling of being in space when you actually have earplugs in your ear. So I would say that for stage, I would go with the Hook X partly because of the open back. Tonality overall, I would go with the Hook X because I like it. I think value, I think Dioko is the best value. I'd personally take the Hook X myself because it checks most of the boxes. This set really isn't doing it in any of these in a way that I think is better than any of the others that have come along yet. If I start with the first track that I listened to when I listened to this set, it was from Menace to Society soundtrack, and it was track 1, and it's called N-Word Gots No Heart. I don't want to say that and get my channel dinged, but that's what I listened to, and I thought, that sounds okay. My radar's tipping up. I had not done the graph yet, but that was an indication that the bass was up, and it wasn't really fast, actually. And then I listened to other stuff, and I went to a very important track for me because it's got a bass guitar, a drum kit that's going on at about the same time, and the Tin Hi-Fi P1 is the set that introduced me to what the potential of planar is. In earphones, it is a subtle, small version of what it is with headphones. It can give you more perceived separation of two instruments, a bassist and a drummer that are doing mini solos at the same time. And a lot of the planar sets can kind of do that. This set is not really doing that. It's very surprising. It's behaving a lot like a dynamic driver would with a lot of elevation in the bass. So I'm not gonna keep jumping on this. I'm gonna say that if you like a warm set and you're not focused on micro details, and extension is a big thing to you, you might want to consider this. I would say wait for more reviews and see what people think about this. I think it sounds a lot like a dynamic driver. And not much like a planar, so it is the most affordable planar release to date, but it doesn't sound like it's doing what I think a planar driver should do. It's doing what I think a dynamic driver does. And when it's being hit with a lot of low frequency info, it's doing what that kind of driver does. I'm not sure what's going on. If you understand this particular driver and what it is, and if it's any different for regular players, please comment below so that I can kind of educate myself, because this sounds most like a dynamic of all the planars that I've heard, and that's not a good thing when it's elevated as much as it is in the low end. And I'm a bass head. That's Tupac Shakur right there. That's an old car audio. That's a 10-inch. I'm sorry, that's from my boombox. My boomboxes, I'll show you guys videos someday. I love my low end. Everybody knows it. This is like a dynamic driver. There's other options. I would take the Zero with 2 drivers and a dedicated subwoofer if I wanted to listen to Menace to Society soundtrack over this, and that's $10 cheaper. So that's my thoughts. Planar Wars 7, I think, and I'm out. And it was such an obvious, I won't even get into that. Give me something that's good. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking. It doesn't have to be industry shaking. It doesn't have to be, price range shaking. It just has to be really good. Good. And I'm gonna hype it because $60 or whatever. I'd love for it to be good. Unfortunately, there's something dynamic driverish about this, and that's not really what I'm expecting. And that puts it in. If I were to pick this or the dual dynamic driver set, the Zero, I'd still take the Zero because it actually sounds better, and I'd play with the mid bass a little bit. This doesn't resolve as good as that set. I don't know. And that's it. I guess that's Planar 7 or 8. I'll check it out. Look for other people's reviews. I think that elevated bass, and I think that whatever this driver is not, it's not doing what I thought it was going to do. And I'm out.